world of Amaranth is a beautiful place. Sandy shores reach out into the deep blue of the crystal ocean. Snow-capped mountains peer over stretches of dense forest and golden deserts, white plains of frost and snow, and shining pockets of swamps and marshes. The skies dance with dragons and beasts as the lands are worked by mankind and monsters alike. The scars of battle and wasted lives are apparent across the countryside, and many towns lie as ghosts, empty or abandoned. Necromancy is a strange art, terrifying yet powerful, turning the bodies of those we once knew into puppets of a wizard's will through the creative bending of magic is often a source of fear or even misunderstanding. And for thousands of years, with the lack of divine intervention, people were forced to be resourceful. Necromancy was the only path through which magic recovery was possible, and its effects proved robust and terrifying. Wizards who let their ambition and greed overpower their morals and ethics raised armies of the dead and used them to overthrow cities and nations. The country of Ceres nearly fell. Until the day of the fall, the landscape was wiped clean of the dead. Skeletons and wights instantly burned in holy fire as the commanding power of the Raven Queen washed across the land. The necromancers fled, many of them cleansed of power, and for the first time in centuries, the night was silent. The gods retook their place. The mornings were greeted with holy magic. Mankind looked to the skies again with new hope as the gods they had read about and heard stories of their whole lives were answering them, and answering them each loud and clear. A new wave of paladin orders and temples in all of the divine's names sprouted across the world, and the time-forgotten practice of divine healing was remembered. A century passed. As the landscape has continued its recovery, new and troubling issues arise. A dangerously sensitive Cold War brews between the floating lands of Zephyr and the Arcanatech nation of Ceres, and the world is slowly but surely being separated into two sides, as new technologies and their abilities seem to outweigh the practical ease, yet complexity, of old magics. But our story doesn't look to these countries or their problems. In a world filled with stories, Amaranth always has one to tell, of life and death, of heroes and villains, but not this one. Instead, this story focuses upon a young wizard heading into the town of Farum. The town of Farum is an interesting sight. As the cobbled path leading to the front gates passes underfoot, you see the trees along the road, gently wavering in the breeze. It's a beautiful day, and as you approach, the rich smells of bread and fresh fish fill your nose. The sounds of business at the docks resounding throughout the streets ahead of you, and you take in the sight of the small town far ahead. At a distance, Farum is short and stalwart, its perimeter guarded with well-built and maintained stone walls, decorated with battlements and matriculations. The gray stone barriers are bastioned with towers, and despite the clear care for their maintenance, signs of damage are still visible. The gates are open, and beyond the gatehouse, through the city, you spy the peering towers of the Morrigan Academy, fortified as well as the town itself. What do you do?
I am all here for business.
Okay. So you head straight up to the town of Farum?
Yes.
Okay. The town streets are busy. It is late afternoon. It doesn't take you long to get to the main gatehouse, and the guards don't even give you a second glance. A human here? That's no one is expecting anything strange. Once inside the gates of the town, it unerringly fills one with anticipation. The bustle of individuals, coupled with the sturdy buildings lining the worn, weathered road. The sounds of the docks are louder now, and the calls of wares and fish fill the air. The smell of salt and brine almost overwhelm the rich scent of freshly baked bread on the air, and the aromas mixed together is almost overwhelming. From here, now that you're inside the gatehouse, you can see down the streets, and the gatehouse that leads to the Morrigan Academy. Heading straight there?
Sure am.
Okay. You do not give the town a moment's thought as you walk straight up the cobbled path. and you step inside the gatehouse. And the Merigard Academy is everything that you've heard it was. A stout gray stone keep is sentineled by spires, arrow-slit windows, and protected battlements remark of a history in each of the structures. The main keep itself only appears to be 2 or 3 stories in height, though it does appear wider than you can tell from here. Trees and archery butts block your view after a ways. To the sides of a stone path ahead, you see the grounds of the academy are well kept, flat stretches of grass that appear tended to either by careful hands or by horses that you can hear chuffing and pacing within a large stable to your right. Short fences and paddocks weave between the high trees and boulders, which some of which show signs of wear or perhaps irresponsible practice. Banners of the Merigard, hung from high spires, flap lazily in the breeze, the sunlight dancing across the crimson fabric. And the spires bastion the keep at all corners. They reach high above the walls with large windows, and within some of them you see flashes of light and rich smoke billowing forth. Your ears fill with the symphony of effort. The sounds of clashing blades and shouted commands echo from the training yards. Resounding thunder and staccato thumps accompany smoke that rise from within the keep, and you witness light dropping from the skies in places that you can't quite see. You take a deep breath. Now that you're inside the gatehouse, the air is much fresher, and you are almost startled by a voice. "Ah, I do hope you are nearly as brilliant as you look, darling. Still, you appear to lack a certain edge."
My skill will show for itself.
One can only hope. You turn, and there is a dark woman looking at you, wearing a velvet dress of dark blue, and it reaches from the stone cobbled path underneath her feet, accentuated by, you can just barely see, black heels, and they lead up the dress up to a black veil, accentuated by pale calfskin gloves that reach beyond her elbows. Her fingers gently pressed to a chin you can't see. Pure white eyes peer at you from beneath the veil, and you swear they hint of a small smile. "Such confidence. A new hopeful, I hope so."
It's either I make it or I fail. I'm not failing.
Oh, well, such is the case with everyone. And she turns away from you, revealing cascading white hair that flows out past her shoulders from beneath the veil. And she glides along the path toward the keep, the gown only just barely drifting above the stone. "I do wish you luck, though. Such potential is rare to see." She throws over her shoulder, and you watch as she enters the doors to the keep.
I follow.
Okay. All business. When you enter the keep, you don't see her anymore, but you are greeted with loud noise of conversation and banners along each wall. This entry hall is well lit, and you see a number of candles lit along the walls to the sides. Artwork of individuals of all races, each bearing all manner of equipment and expressions in their own portraits, stare at you expectantly. The sounds of conversation fill the entry hall in front of you, and you are immediately presented with a dwarf seated at a wide desk in front of you. It takes a moment, and you see he is patiently writing with a quill and parchment before he says anything. Thin spectacles hang atop a scarred nose, and a wiry gray brow furrows underneath thick salt and pepper hair, drawn into braids that lace behind him. He finishes a note and looks up to you, beard and mustache braided with beads, lightly tapping against the desk as he speaks.
"Greetings, and welcome to the Merigard Academy. How can I help you?"
I need to sign in for some classes.
"Ah, a new recruit then. Course, I just need signature here."
And he pushes a ledger across the desk toward you.
I shall sign it in the best handwriting I can do, which
Alright.
isn't that good.
It's a little... It's there. The attempt at neatness is apparent, though 2 of the other signatures above yours are written in a fine elven hand that makes you maybe a little envious. As you finish signing, he says,
"All right, you're going to proceed into the selection room right over there."
and he points to a closed door, and he says,
"And Maxwell will guide you from here. Welcome aboard."
Thank you.
Okay. He returns back to his papers.
I shall proceed forth.
Okay. When you enter the selection room, you are greeted by a slender human man who's reading a book. He would have slipped your notice, but you heard him speak to you. He's clean-shaven, with alert eyes, and while he might be smiling, his eyes are not.
Ah! Welcome. A prospect, I hope. By all means, take a look at the table and choose by which means you would like to be trained. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I'm Maxwell.
I am Lorelei, and thank you for your service. I'll look at the table.
The table before you is sturdy wood, and it is absolutely laden. You see from left to right an assortment of equipment, each with a small inscription detailing the training course provided, and the instructor. A two-handed axe lays across the table, shining sharp and new, the haft of well-oiled hickory. The inscription, Barbarian, Tauren. Next is a well-made flute, its fittings silver and glistening, labeled with Bard, Tali. And then a small, ornately crafted crossbow, small enough to be used with one hand, labeled Bloodhunter, Nile. A box with holy symbols of each deity, labeled Cleric, Treat. The list goes on, and equipment for any possible training routine, ending finally with a well-made brass-lined tomb, labeled Wizard, Tabernacle.
Looks like this tabernacle person's going to be my teacher.
Oh, is that so?
You hear from over your shoulder.
Yes.
Well, I do look forward to seeing your reaction.
Reaction?
You'll see. Though I do require tuition.
Yes, of course, and I shall give him what little money I have currently.
The price is 100 gold. You do have that.
Yeah.
Okay. He takes it, he kind of bounces the purse in his hand, and he says,
All right, one last thing. I just need a signature right here.
and he offers you a smaller ledger.
I shall sign it.
Okay. We have you for a year. Follow me, though this is a bit of a hike.
Alright.
He leads you out the door and begins going down a hallway to your right. And you notice that each of these doors that line this hallway are only 2 or 3 feet apart. It does not take much to guess this is probably magically done. He leads you through another door to an archway, and then up this archway through some stairs, and you begin to climb.
Why is it that all you wizards want to work in towers? Do you know what that's about?
I do not own a tower. I wouldn't know.
It's really obnoxious.
As he's kind of muttering over his shoulder at you as he's climbing.
Well, I'll tell you what. If you ever become to work with me, I will not have a tower.
I'll take you up on that.
And after climbing up what feels like 2 sets of stairs, he stops at a door, and he says,
All right, this one's you.
Thank you.
Deep breath. First impressions are important. And don't stare.
Don't stare.
Don't stare.
Alright.
You step in.
I do, hesitantly.
The room is filled with books. All you see for a moment are tomes and volumes, parchment and vellum, pages and pages of information on all sorts of topics, some of things you don't think you'd ever even need to know, and you do notice a few individuals with their heads down in their studies. This room is large, and it begins to darken in the distance, for making you feel like it is much larger than this tower would make you think it is, and you notice it is mostly round in shape. Several windows across from you allow in a meager amount of daylight, and the rich smell of fresh parchment, the musk of old books, and the odd tinge of ashen incense fill your senses as you take in the surroundings. Further along in the room, past the tables of books, you see shelves of all sorts of objects. They're actually blocking your view. each shelf containing all sorts of components, including roots, organic material, jars of fine blue powder, vials and vials of oils and liquids of all colors, parts of creatures, bones, rolls of flesh, teeth, talons, eyes, hair, furs, ligaments, strands of tendon, and vials of bloods. The components fill the shelves. And beyond them you see a stone cutaway, cornered off with crates and blackened in places with scorch marks. What strikes you most oddly is you feel a pair of eyes notice you. You don't notice them, you don't know where they are, but you do feel like you're being watched. But as you look around, you are brought out of your reverie, taking in this room, by a voice, which sounds as if it is an answer.
No, no, you will certainly not. Waste Banasite, where you can go collect pixies from the forest. Urgency does not forgive laziness, child.
The voice comes from a much larger section of the room, beyond the shelves, though still lined with tomes, components, and scrolls. You can't see what that is from here.
I go closer.
As you move around the shelf, the twinkle of candlelight dancing across what looks like a creature, giving the appearance of smooth but rapid motion, a dragon is resting in a reclined, constructed alcove. The clatter of footsteps move toward you as a pale yellow robed dragonborn is hurrying past you, muttering to himself. The dragon looks up to you and says,
Ah, a human. A refreshing change of pace.
Thank you?
You would think with how many of you there are in Aurelia, more of you would find your way to my classroom. I remember when I was a wormling, it was humans who were delving into magic as deep as they could. It was always interesting to see the sorts of magics they would twist. The weave is a funny thing. It does mind if it creates or destroys, persuades or caresses, but if you do it wrong, it will punish you for trying.
You get the impression that he will continue to talk until you interrupt him as he begins diving into a story.
I like stories.
So you listen?
I do.
Okay. You stand there listening to this dragon who, in the candlelight, you can see he is brass-colored, with the signifying horns on his head, the kind of friendly stature that a brass dragon usually has. You see a few students who kind of glance up at you as you're listening to this dragon. They almost look like they're pitying you. And you realize he's telling you nothing you need to know. It takes about 45 minutes before you realize he's just been talking.
I think I'm here for a reason, though, not to interrupt you.
Ah, of course. I apologize. It is always refreshing for a new pair of ears to be able to witness my wisdom. So, you come to the Mirror Garden, you hope. What? Why are you here?
Knowledge.
Gain knowledge, of course. You've come to the right place. I am Tabernacle. And you are?
Morgan Lorelei.
All right. So, what do you know already?
Simple spells. From where I'm from, mostly cold ones. I don't know much fire or transmutation or things like that.
Of course, of course. Easy work. Easy work. So, here's what we're going to do. Tonight, you are going to go get some sleep. And then tomorrow, we shall test how quickly you can pick these up, how good you are with somatics and gestures and bending the weave to your will. And then we'll begin to fill your head.
What time is classes?
Time. When the sun wakes me up.
Alright. I'll be waking up early then.
Of course. If you have any questions, I think Maxwell is likely still out the door. Otherwise, I can answer anything you might want to know. But this first day, this is a free day.
Thank you.
Of course.
Am I allowed to peruse your library?
Yes.
Thank you. And I shall go do so, assuming the conversation's over.
He will keep you there to talk at you if you let him. So you're gonna go and investigate the books that you see?
Yes.
Roll investigation.
Just skim pretty quickly, you know?
There are a lot. Roll investigation.
Hold on, my computer just freaking froze up. What's my investigation? Oh god, +5. I like this new character.
A nat.
Ooh!
A natty. Okay. Right off the bat. As you peruse through these shelves, you notice they're not... It doesn't seem like they're in any particular order until you start paying attention to their topics. And you realize that they are divided by school. Abjuration, illusion, enchantment, necromancy, conjuration, evocation. They're all divided by the sort of effects the magic is expected to have. Though in those sections, there is no organization. That being said, it doesn't take you long to realize that there are explanations of arcane theory, descriptions of how the weave works, descriptions of dragons, descriptions of monsters, expectations you can have from each type of school of magic and how different monsters will react, contacting the abyssal plane, everything you might need to know about the planar system, the history of this plane, the history of all the planes, the explanation as they can understand of the fall. It's all here. Everything that you could probably think of, there's at least a topic on it here. And it doesn't take you long to realize that this library is probably part of the Dragon's Hoard.
Oh, I love it here. I'm going to enjoy this year so much.
Roll me an Arcana check.
Okay, Arcana. Also +5. Oof.
10. So...
Yeah.
You kind of glance over at the brass dragon as you're looking through all these books, and you remember reading that brass dragons are the most social of dragons. They will spend their whole lives trying to incorporate themselves with people, and they would never likely kill someone they thought was good. Or they wouldn't kill someone they thought was going to harm them. They would just want to talk to them.
So, the pacifist of dragons.
They're definitely still dangerous if you cross one. But
Of
they'd
dragons.
rather be friends.
Okay. That's cool. Have a dragon as my teacher. I have never seen a dragon before. So that's pretty cool. I'm going to take a book on just dragons in general, just so I can, like, maybe he's got a culture, like a way of
There are
life.
lots of them, so roll me a percentile check.
Percentile. Oh god.
And we'll figure out which book you pick up.
Just, like, I want to get good with this teacher, you know?
Sure.
So-
So you're looking for a book on brass dragons?
Well, I suppose, but also, like...
With a natty 20 on that investigation, you could probably specify the topic of book you're looking for a little bit.
Okay. Like, you know how people have cultures and, like, traditions and just, like, the way they are.
Yes.
I would assume dragons would have the same deal and attempt to read up.
Okay, so you're looking for books on dragon culture?
Yes.
Okay.
And Yeah, I'll stick with that one for now.
You find one, yeah. It does not take you long. This, while everything is kind of sorted into schools, the books that are closer to Tabernac himself, who as soon as you like walked off, he's like found another student and is talking at them about pranks that other brass dragons have pulled. It's interesting, but if you will find yourself not accomplishing anything if you sit there and listen to this brass dragon. So the books that are closer to his little, it's like a stage that he kind of hangs out on. He just kind of sits there while he's talking to people. You do see the wall behind him has lots of hooks with different clothes hanging from it. So you get the impression he probably does leave as a person, but while he's in here, he'd rather just hang out as a dragon.
Yeah, I get that. It's like taking off your winter coat.
Yeah.
Just want to be comfortable in your own house. As soon as it's house.
It's big enough. And that also is interesting because there's no way this room is actually at the top of the tower. It is enormous. Because this is it does not take you much to know this is an adult dragon. He's huge.
Yeah.
You go up to these shelves of books. He kind of glances over. He doesn't say anything to you, but he does notice what book you're taking. But he just continues talking with the... you glance over, it is a dragonborn student he's speaking with.
I wouldn't know if I'm allowed to take this back to my room, would I?
You could ask.
I don't want to interrupt.
You could stand there and wait for a pause.
That'll take a bit. I won't attempt to do so.
You could always ask another student.
Oh yeah, thank you. I'm gonna go to one of the ones that's like just reading on the couch or whatever and just like tap him on the shoulder and be like, am I allowed to take these back to my room?
It's a gnome who turns up and looks at you and he says, "Oh, yeah, just make sure you bring it back the next day.
Thank you.
If you don't, he knows."
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's a little bit scary. I shall take this book and head off to my room.
So, when you step out of the of the classroom, Maxwell has fallen asleep, leaning against the door, like the door frame.
Poor guy, he needs a break.
Do you wake him up?
Since I don't know where my room is, I'm gonna have to. Sorry about that. I don't know where my room is. I'd let you sleep, but...
It's my fault. I should have brought a chair. Oh. Damn. So what'd you think?
Amazing.
Yeah, they got a little lucky picking him up. He's before my time, but so far everyone seems pretty excited about it. Just don't cross him, huh?
I wouldn't dream of it.
Me neither, to be honest. Yeah, follow me. I'll lead you to your dorm. He proceeds up the stairs.
I will, of course, follow him.
It's one flight, and then the door to what you assume are the wizard's quarters opens, and it is not much more than a barracks. There are relatively nice beds here. Each one is partitioned off by a curtain, and each sectioned area has basically a dresser, a trunk, and a bed. It does not look like it's supposed to be a permanent residence. You do see there are 4 beds that are occupied, and then there are 2 beds that are open.
Where are those 2 beds?
They're just one of them is next to the door, and then the other one is off in the far corner.
I shall take the one in the far corner.
Okay. This bed is snugged up against the corner wall. It's not a big bed. It's just what would be the modern equivalent of a twin. So it's not huge, but it will suffice. It's comfortable though, and you have this book on dragon culture.
I will read it for like an hour or two and
Roll me
head to bed.
a straight intelligence check.
Intelligence check. Not save. Just, oh yeah, okay, I know how to do this. Hold on. I play D&D.
Sometimes. 19. That's pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a lot of information on this book. Partly it explains the difference between chromatic and metallic dragons. It explains when metallic dragons generally prefer peace unless they see a chromatic dragon. There are exceptions to this rule, of course, and it specifies that copper dragons will go out of their way to attack a chromatic dragon if it thinks it's around. A gold dragon is so judiciary and so dead set on upholding law that if it thinks someone is against the law, the gold dragon will kill it, good or bad. And that's terrifying because the gold dragon is the king of dragons and generally is considered to be among the strongest. The red dragon is territorial and dangerous, and it will, if it thinks it can beat someone in a fight, it will fight them. There will be no conversation. The red dragon will just immediately attack. If the red dragon does not think it can fight someone, and red dragons are very good at picking their fights, they will be prideful and scorn them, try and goad them into a position of disadvantage so that the red dragon could destroy them. A brass dragon and a blue dragon are arch enemies. They both reside in deserts, usually, though blue dragons are huge and powerful with lightning breaths that can reach farther than any other kind, though brass dragons are smaller and much quicker. So normally if a blue dragon and a brass dragon were to actually fight, the brass dragon would lose. So the way a brass dragon normally fights blue dragons is they collect friends to join them to fight a blue dragon. Silver dragons are free-spirited, and they are the most likely. Silver dragons are the most likely to be friendly with society, to want to help people or just hang out. Silver dragons are the ones who will disguise themselves as people all day long and go to dinner with a family. And silver dragon families have been reputed to choose a clan of humans or other humanoids and just protect them as almost a member of their own family. Green dragons usually reside in forests, though usually green dragons are dangerous and sneaky, and they will try to outwit someone and trick them into just feeding themselves to it. Black dragons are almost always alone. They never ever want to team up with other people or dragons, and even a black dragon attempting to mate with another black dragon is basically it's the one who can outwit the other one, but once a black dragon has decided to mate another black dragon, they are fiercely protective of each other. Let's see. What else would be in that book? I think
Maybe a little bit of dragon language, or
sure. I mean, there's
favorite foods.
Okay, I'll give you that.
Would a species be considered favorite food? Because I know humans have varying forms of food.
Yeah, I would say so. Brass dragons almost always eat. It does not take much food for a brass dragon to be happy. A brass dragon can eat, like a human meal and be set for half a month.
Oh.
And they really like humanoid food. They really like fancy fish or like complex pasta dish. They like to eat things that are complicated because dragons don't get to make that normally. Golden dragons eat rare stones and precious materials. Let's see what else there. Red dragons just eat red meat, fresh meat. They think human is the tastiest of meat, and they will eat it if they can get the chance. Black dragons like to pickle their food in their acid so that it gets gross and just disgusting, and then they eat it.
Is it like a spider?
Yeah, a bit. White dragons like to freeze their food, completely frozen, and then break it apart and eat it in the shattered pieces. Also, white dragons are creatures almost entirely of instinct. They are not dumb, but they do not have any concept of abstract thought. So, like, if you make a white dragon a promise, it does not understand the promise. If a white dragon sees that you have something it wants, it will just try to attack you.
What is something they would want? Gold or?
White dragons like things that are shiny. It does not have to be gold, just so long as it's shiny. A white dragon will try to take a mirror if it could, because white dragons are immune to snow blindness. They like their lairs to be bright and shining and glimmering. And that's why all of their treasures are frozen, because the ice acts as a lens to magnify everything they have and make it seem brighter and more shiny.
I think by this point I would have fallen asleep.
Okay. I can keep going.
I kind of want you to.
No.
Yeah.
So, you doze off. Roll me a wisdom saving throw.
Oh god, don't make me be the one that falls asleep. First day of school. Wisdom saving throw. Oh, freaking
9.
god.
So it takes you a while. It takes you a while to finally pass out. You are excited, even after reading this book to settle your mind. Now all you can think about is you're finally in a situation to learn what you need to know. You're finally at a place where knowledge is accessible, and it's just it's just at your fingertips. You could go in that library and you could read all night long, and you will. And that anticipation keeps you awake. You do finally fall asleep, but when you wake up, you awaken to the sun on your face.
Oh. I'm gonna rush out of the room, try and get to class as quickly as possible.
Okay.
I don't think I changed clothes. I honestly think I just sat on my bed and fell asleep.
See, that's why wizards get that reputation for being stinky. So,
Oh, god dang it.
you run into the classroom, and there's fewer people in here this time, though Tabernac is, you still hear him talking. He's having a conversation with another student, and he does not notice you at first. Do you return the book?
I do.
As you slide it back in, he turns to you and says, "Ah, I am glad to see you understand the rules. So, we can finish this conversation later." And he says to the student who is already gone, "That's a little rude, but I understand everyone's busy these days. All right, are you ready to begin?
Very much so.
We're going to have a later day.
I understand.
Let us see what you know." And then, over the next year, you train. A lot of the time, Tabernac has to polymorph into a human, and he is kind of an elderly-looking man with thinning brown hair. He's not unattractive, but he's just kind of plain middle-aged looking. And he always hops into this favored form so he can teach you exactly how to do the somatic gestures as to what he's talking about. As he is training you and walking you through the different spells, one by one he goes through all the spells that you already know. And he shows you how you can use them in creative ways. Things that you can do with chill touch, things that you can do with ice knife that you might not normally do. Tricks of the trade, he keeps saying. And eventually, this becomes second nature. You begin to just get those hand gestures down without a thought. I would like you to roll me a few rolls. I would like an Arcana check.
Alright. Arcana check.
A 16. I would like a history check. Okay. And then I would like a straight wisdom check.
Wisdom. Oh, I'm not good in straight up wisdom. Why'd you gotta do that to me?
It can't all be easy.
Oh!
And yet you rolled an 18 plus 2. Okay. So, your year of training goes well. You have no issue collecting any sort of information you need for whatever situations he throws you. He sends you out into the woods to find different components. You find them quickly using your resource books. These instructions are here. Why would anyone have a hard time with this? You find exactly what you're looking for every time, and he grows impressed. You push yourself to expand your spell book, to write down everything you find in this fine brass tome that the Morrigan has provided you. Because of those solid-ass rolls, you get to learn. Write down in your book. Let's see here. Open up your character sheet for me. Make sure you got it open.
Do I go to the editing? Manage spells?
Manage spells.
Manage spells. Okay.
These are the spells that you're going to get to write down in your book because of your stellar performance. Are you ready?
Hold on, it's loading adding spells. Okay, already.
Absorb elements.
Absorb. Absorb.
Alarm. Chromatic orb.
Oh wait. How's that spelled? Oh no, I found it. Never mind.
I'm glad I could help. Detect magic.
Okay.
Expeditious retreat.
Okay.
Magic missile.
Ooh. Got it.
And the last one, you ready?
Yes.
Snare.
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 I don't know that spell.
Well, now your character does. Or rather,
Yeah.
can prepare it in the morning.
Gosh, that's so many spells.
Yes, that's what happens when you roll really well.
Okay.
So, as you attend to your studies, and you pick up every spell that he throws at you, it comes to the end of the year, and finally Tabernac, in human form, pulls you aside, and he says, "So, I must say, you have a unique potential. I think... Well, I know you're ready, but I think whatever team you are assigned on will find you a valuable asset. But there is one last trick that you need to complete your services as a contractor." And he hands you a scroll.
I open it.
It is the Find Familiar spell. But there are some changes to the wording. You've seen Find Familiar in other books, but you never quite understood it. This one is a little different, and he says, "You are going to need this on your trial."
Oh, Echo.
Yeah?
Okay. Thank you, first of all. Thank you, Professor.
Of course.
I won't fail.
In most cases, I would say we will see, but you have impressed me so far.
And he kind of turns and walks away. Your trial is tomorrow. And this scroll, who knows if it's foreboding or forgiving? Who knows? But it is definitely a clue, at least.
Did I get the impression I was supposed to use it during the trial or beforehand to prep myself?
He said you're going to need it during the trial.
Yes, okay. I shall strap it to my belt, basically.
Okay.
Next to my book.
Okay. So, it is the day before your trial. And this happened pretty midday, so you have a little bit of free time. Is there anything that you want to do before your trial begins?
As I have done many days throughout the year, I shall once again look in the necromancy section.
Roll me investigation. 21. No one gives you any strange looks. No one even side-eyes you. And people are wandering through these sections all the time, and you look through and you find all sorts of topics in the necromancy section. You find explanations of different undead. You find different ways of destroying them. You find different ways of creating them. You find answers to problems about liches. You find a book describing phylacteries and what a requirement is of them. Things like that. What sort of book are you looking for?
Even still, I'm not quite sure. Raising the dead, obviously, but more than that.
There are many books on raising the dead. You see some that explain how to create revenants. You see some that explain bending undead who are unwilling and convincing them to come to your side anyway. You see spells that normally when a cleric would destroy them, they don't. Things like that. You see powerful magic. Some of them, you know you don't have it in you to make those happen just yet, but you understand that when you do, those will be powerful.
I'm debating between taking the book on revenants and taking the book on preventing clerics from destroying the undead.
Well, you could totally do it.
But which one? That's the question.
Up to you. I can't tell you that.
That's true. I will probably be there for the next 20 minutes trying to figure out which one to choose. Coin flip, coin flip, coin flip, coin flip.
Sure.
Okay, it's the one on clerics.
Okay. You take that book?
Yes.
It's... Okay. So, you take it, and you bring it with you back to your room?
Yes.
Okay. So, it's not a huge book, but it does explain why one would want to protect their spells or their creations from certain cleric abilities, from divine magics. Now, a lot of the times, divine magic can overwhelm even the best of precautions, but there are always risks one has to take when they're trying to raise a creature from death. Go ahead and roll me a straight intelligence check.
Another intelligence check, okay. Alright.
10.
It's something.
You understand that the spell is called Protection from Evil and Good, but you don't get it yet. You don't quite get it. It's a little tricky. Perhaps if you had a more powerful wizard, or if you just spent some more time trying to inscribe it to your spellbook, you might be able to learn it. But for now, you don't.
Understood. I think return the book. I don't know what I'll be doing tomorrow, so
Okay.
I'll return the book right before bed and fall asleep.
Okay. You return the book. Tabernacle nods at you, and then he tries to interrupt whatever you're doing to tell you about an adventuring party he found in a desert.
I listened for a bit, but I do remind him I have stuff to do tomorrow. Important things.
You try and tell him that a few times. He does not quite notice until about 30 minutes of explaining that these adventurers would keep wandering in circles despite the mirages. Eventually, you do get the point across, and he says,
Oh, yeah. Oh, I apologize. You know, I get long-winded on these things.
I understand, Professor, and I always enjoy hearing what you have to say.
Of course you do. Go get some rest. Go get some rest. And I will see you here first thing in the morning.
Of course. And I shall head to bed.
Okay, so you go to sleep. Go ahead and roll me a wisdom saving throw.
Alright. Easy here. I should be better at this. Not much.
It makes a difference. You do manage to quell your anticipation and excitement for the coming trial. And you go to sleep. You have strange dreams of your parents. You have dreams of your hometown. You have dreams of bending the weave with necromantic energy. But you waken on time.
I shall get dressed and ready for the day.
Okay.
Washed up this time, I remind you.
All right. You are clean and do not smell of day-old BO. So, when you return to the classroom, you find that it is empty. Tabernacle is at his little stage and he's reading something.
I politely walk up and clear my throat.
Ah, Maury. A good time. Good timing. I'm glad to see you've become punctual over the year.
Of course, Professor.
So, are you ready?
I am.
He kind of closes the book with two enormous brass talons, and he rests his weight on one gigantic arm, and he looks close at you, and he says,
Listen to me carefully. You are going to proceed into the forest. You are going to find the Fey Ponds, and you are going to meditate. And you will not return until you have something that proves your worth. I will judge.
As you say.
I will judge what you bring. Should it not be potent enough, should it be a pine cone or some other thing trivial, you will fail.
I understand.
Best of luck. You have one
Thank
day.
you. Plenty of time, I'm sure. And I shall head out.
okay. Persh, as you're heading out and you move down the stairs, the dwarf at the front desk, who you now know his name is Persh, looks up at you and says,
Oh, finally heading out then.
I am.
It's been a year.
It has.
Best of luck.
Yeah, thank you. good luck with all the new recruits and all you have to do here.
It has been a bit slow, but thank you.
You never know. Could speed up.
We don't have that many slots. He just kind of
And
returns to his papers.
off to the forest.
Okay. The grounds of the Merit Guard Academy are not something that you've really explored. You've gone outside to do some of the bigger spells, obviously, but you haven't really explored them. You haven't really had cause to. You do know the way to the forest, though, and it is not a long walk. It's only 15 minutes. The sun is low, only just above the horizon, and the cool morning air, it helps stir you, keeps you awake as you push out toward the forest. When you reach the forest line, you do see there are a lot of game trails and other walked paths. You are not entirely sure of the way to the Fey Ponds, but how hard could it be to find? Go ahead and roll me a survival check.
I am good at those. It should be... No, I'm not as good as I thought. +4. I thought it was +4. Oh,
A
God.
9. With a 9, you do go into the forest, and you do find a game trail, and you decide to follow it. It leads you for a ways. You keep following it for about an hour. You do hear the sounds of the forest waking up. Occasionally, a chipmunk laughs at you as you're walking through the trees. Or it laughs at something. It might be you. It definitely feels a little suspicious, but who are you to take offense? Go ahead and roll me another one. A 14. Okay. You push deeper into the forest, and the trees begin to grow a little thicker, and denser, and greener. You're keeping track of where you've been. It is getting a little harder to see deeper into the forest. It makes you feel a little better knowing that you're getting a little deeper. And then, after traveling along this game trail for about 2 hours, you break into a small clearing, it's very small. It's only maybe 20 feet across, and you see that on the far side of this clearing, the trees are... The only way to describe it is decorated.
Decorated with what?
They look like someone has intentionally made them look beautiful. You see flowers and vines strewn across branches in ways that could not have happened naturally, but they are gorgeous. It's all across that tree line ahead of you on the other side of the clearing. It looks beautiful.
I shall keep going.
Roll me another survival check. A 16. As you push into this side of the forest and you move through, the forest itself looks... It's hard to describe it as anything other than intentionally beautiful. Natural decorations and ornaments are hung from all the trees, and each step is lined with colorful vines, flowers, and petals that are strewn about. Roll me an Arcana check. 21.
Ooh.
You know exactly what this cause is. You believe the decorations and the intentional just trying to make everything look pretty. This is the work of a dryad.
Can I tell if it would be one or multiple?
That it's either a very old dryad who's had a lot of time, or it's multiple.
I would assume multiple. Although, the forest is pretty old, I assume.
You don't know. Could be. A lot of the trees are very big around.
I can assume. I, okay, I would know this, right? Dryads, would they be particularly angry at me being in their area?
With the 21 Arcana check?
Yes.
They would be angry if you hurt their area.
For now, I am doing nothing but stepping on grass, and hopefully that does not anger them. I shall carry on.
Okay. So you move carefully, trying not to harm anything in this forest. Okay. It doesn't take you long. It's maybe about another 30 minutes, and the dense decorations are only getting more flamboyant and colorful, and it is beautiful. Roll me a final survival check.
Survival.
13. You break through and you get into a game trail that is more traveled than the one you were just on. And you follow this one for about an hour. You come into a meadow. The meadow is big and wide, and you see there is a pond. It's not really a pond, it's more like a small lake. And you see there are deer and other creatures on the other side of the lake from you who are drinking from it. As soon as you come through, they run away. But it is beautiful here. The lake is dappled with lily pads. The reeds and high cattails lace all around the edges. The trees reach over it, their canopies high up into above this, like reaching into the sky, blocking out the sunlight. It's shadowed, it's gorgeous, and it smells clean and clear.
I shall sit by the water's edge and meditate.
Okay. You sit.
I assume this is where I'm supposed to go.
You think so? You meditate. What do you meditate on?
First, just keeping calm, my past studies,
You feel
and possible future ahead.
You feel the cool breeze off of the small lake gently brushing against your face, pushing your hair away from your ears. It's really peaceful here. The only noise you hear are birds conversating in the trees behind you. Occasionally you hear an animal chittering, looking for something. Brush rustles behind you about 40 feet away. You assume that's a squirrel or rabbit of some kind. It's very quiet here. And after about maybe 30 minutes, you feel comfortable, you feel relaxed, your mind is at ease. What do you do?
I don't know much more than to continue meditating. The thought of opening the scroll does pass through my mind, but I do not want to preemptively start the trial.
The trial's already begun.
Yes, but preemptively, do something I shouldn't.
Okay.
If nothing happens in the next 15 to 20 minutes, I think taking out the scroll would be our next option.
Roll me a perception check.
Perception.
There it is.
It hasn't been fixed, but I'll do +4.
A 13. Your eyes are shut in your meditation, but you definitely feel like something is looking at you.
From what side of me? Just all around, or?
You just feel that pressure of someone looking at you. It's almost like that tickling of the hairs on the back of your neck.
Mm. Does it feel malevolent? Or does it feel curious?
That is impossible to tell.
That's true. I don't know, some people have that ability.
You do not
You
have
just feel
ESP, I'm afraid.
evil. Okay.
I understand what you're saying. You do not sense evil, you do not sense good.
Can I open my eyes? Peacefully, no expression on my face, just
Hovering
opening my eyes.
hovering above the water in front of you, maybe about 5 feet away, is a small green light. And it's just kind of flitting back and forth 5 feet away from you.
Is it coming closer or just...
It's kind of dancing left and right. It's not coming any closer.
I want to reach my hand out to it.
It kind of hesitates. It's insight checking you. What are you intending?
Merely for its company, I think.
Roll a persuasion.
Persuasion. I am not good at persuasion anymore.
12.
Oh, I missed that +7.
So, you reach out, and for a moment it hesitates. It kind of skitters back maybe a foot, and then you stay still and you keep your hand extended toward it. And finally, it rests on your fingertip, and it weighs nothing. You wouldn't know it was there if you didn't feel 2 tiny pricks on your fingertip. It's a pixie.
Oh.
Doesn't say anything, but it is. You see just the vague figure of humanoid in tiny form, with wings fluttering on your fingertip.
I'm not sure what to do with a pixie on my finger. What are you doing here, little one?
What languages do you speak?
I speak Abyssal, Common, and Undercommon. Not much in the pixie language.
The pixie kind of tilts its head at you and does not understand. It kind of chirps something at you in a very high, wavering, melodic voice, and you have no idea what it says.
But it seems not unhappy, just talking.
It's curious. You get that impression.
Well, I'm curious as well. I'll motion, like, you know how with a bird, to motion for it to fly off, you, like, hop your hand up a little bit?
Yes.
I'll do that and, like, see if it does something other than stay with me now.
You do. You kind of raise your hand a little bit, and it begins to fly, watching you. It kind of looks to the left and right, and then it disappears.
Oh. I'm gonna take out the scroll. I feel like now is the right time.
Okay. You pull out the scroll.
Am I able to use this scroll?
Yes. You can use the scroll. It is a spell that is in your spell list. You just have to. You don't have it learned yet, so you can read and cast the spell with no issue.
I shall do so.
You begin to read through the scroll, and you notice that a few lines are added. One of the lines remarks, "Why should I help you?" And then it says, "Your answer?"
Because I can help you as well. We can benefit from helping each other.
Then a new line forms on the scroll as you're reading through it. And it says, "Why should I protect you?"
Because I will protect you in return.
You feel everything getting a little shaky. As you finish reading through the scroll, it is a ritual. So you are performing this ritual seated by the lake, performing the hand gestures, reading off what the scroll tells you to read, repeating the sentences, repeating the sayings, and you do it for 10 minutes. Your eyes shut and concentrating the whole time. When you cast a spell like this, when you cast a ritual, there is a feeling of completeness that occurs when it's done. Towards the end of the ritual, maybe 7 or 8 minutes in, you feel a slight pressure on your legs. What alignment are you?
I have not changed it since we last talked.
Sure.
So I'm gonna have to have a look at what I said. I'm very sorry.
Hey, it's okay.
I'm gonna scroll up too fast or anything. Lawful evil.
Okay. Roll me a percentile check.
Percentile. $41.
That's okay. That's very interesting. Okay.
Don't. Oh God.
Okay. You definitely feel a strange pressure on your knees, like something is there, and you're only maybe 8 minutes through the ritual.
I don't see anything on my knees.
Your eyes are
per se.
shut. Are you gonna open your eyes?
Would opening my eyes stop the ritual?
You don't know. You could roll an Arcana check to find out. You've never performed a ritual like this one before.
That's true. I will, just in case I'm not gonna freaking mess up this spell. And I don't roll well. Okay. A 7.
A 7. You don't know.
Well, taking the chance, I'm gonna open my eyes.
Okay, so you open your eyes.
Yes.
You see, that's an interesting percentile roll. A creature with beautiful indigo coloring, flashing back from a head to a long prehensile tail, with 2 enormous butterfly wings stretching out from its back. And it's looking at you with bright, sunset orange-colored eyes, with webbed scales reaching all the way back. And there is a fairy dragon on your knees looking at you. And it says, you hear this in your head. It says, "You called me?"
I suppose I did.
Who are you?
I am Morrigan Lorelei, but I think you will soon be calling me Mori.
Do you have any pie? I
Not
really
yet.
like apple pie.
You know, me too, honestly. I haven't had apple pie in a
What
while.
about honey? Do you have any honey?
I think I do back at campus. Would you like to come along?
I mean, for honey? Yeah. Yeah.
Then off we go. And I shall pick up my new friend and walk out the forest.
So you go to pick him up, and he kind of flitters about over your hand, and then just flies next to you.
Oh, okay. Didn't realize. Sorry about that.
You're interesting.
You as well.
I like your hair. It smells clean.
I like your eyes.
Thank you.
I think we're going to be good friends.
You can call me Korea.
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 Korea. My name is Mori. It's good to meet you.
Yeah. So about that pie.
Yes, and off we go.
You now have a fairy dragon as a familiar.
What the frick is a fairy dragon? I have never heard of this thing.
A fairy dragon. Fairy dragons are extremely small in comparison to their large metallic or chromatic dragon cousins. They're about the size of a cat. Each one has iridescent coat of scales that reflects all the colors of the rainbow, but they predominantly reflect the one color that is in particular with their age. You see, this one is kind of an indigo blue, so it's not an adult yet, but it's close. They grow...
Oh my lord, they're beautiful.
They look strong. I'm sorry, they look beautiful, and they look more beautiful as they age, but they don't live as long as a full-blown dragon. They tend to be pranksters, and they can be mischievous. They tend to be very social, and they do know magic, but the only magic that they learn, they won't learn a spell unless they can use it for a prank. They really like to trick people and make things hard to deal with. Their breath weapon is a gas that makes people... It's like a charm gas.
That's so interesting.
They usually eat anything that is sweet. Their favorite things are sweets and candies and baked goods. They really like pie. Pie, and apple pie in particular, is their favorite treasure, and they will... If you give a fairy dragon a piece of apple pie, it will be your best friend for the rest of its life.
I can totally understand that as someone who only likes apple pie and no other form of pie.
So they do have dark vision, and when you are a familiar... When your familiar is a fairy dragon, you do get resistance on saves against magic.
Ooh.
Which means advantage on magic-based saves. So if someone tries to charm you, you have advantage on that wisdom save.
Huh?
You really fucking lucked out with that percentile roll.
That's such a weird... Okay. Ooh, they're cool. Does it look like this, or is this like, just a fan-made thing?
Let's see. That looks like a young one, but yeah, they look like that.
And mine's older.
Yours is a little older, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, really, you can decide what it looks like, what Korea looks like. And if you call Korea a different name, she'll probably take it.
Honestly, I am fine with Korea as long as I can properly pronounce it.
It's spelled Corya.
Corya. Iyia.
Korea.
Korea.
There you go.
Okay, I will attempt. If I can't do that, I'm gonna maybe ask her if she wants to be named Core or Corial. or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
But for now, Korea, well, she'll have her name. She?
It is a she.
It's a she, I assume. Okay, I'm gonna head back to campus.
Roll me
Stop.
a survival check.
Okay, so I'm not out of the woods yet, huh?
No. You are literally in the woods.
Yeah, survival check, that is 8 plus 4. 23.
23. Okay. You find that same game trail that you followed on the way in. Maybe about 2 hours in, you hear Korea chirp up in your head and say, I left a snare. Watch right there. And
Where is she indicating?
She is like kind of fluttering in tight circles over a spot, and you do not see this trap. Even with this fairy dragon pointing it out to you, you do not see this trap.
I shall make my way around it. It's not been tripped, has it? It's just there.
It's here.
Alright, I'm gonna head around it. Give it a wide berth.
Okay. You don't see the trap, and even as Korea begins following you again, you have no idea where she was pointing. It's so well hidden.
So Korea, why? I mean, not to sound mean, but why are you putting traps in the middle of places like that?
That's funny.
Good point. You don't have any more up ahead, do you?
Yeah.
Oh, how many?
You see her like thinking for a moment.
You know what? If you happen to see them as we go along, just point them out for me, please.
Okay. I might not. It'd be funny, wouldn't it?
I suppose, but the longer I stay in the forest, the less time we get apple pie.
Okay. The first one's over here. And directly in the middle of the game trail, you still don't see it.
Once again, wide berth around that thing.
Okay. Roll me a persuasion check to keep Korea pointing out where she was going to trip you up.
Oh, come.
As you're trying to convince this little fairy dragon to keep the peace, after a while she just starts laughing at you. But she does point out a couple more traps to you. Roll me a perception check.
Perception. Alright, that's a good one.
A 20. So, it isn't long, but another maybe 15 minutes later, Korea doesn't say anything, but you see the faintest glimmer on a trunk just ahead of you. It's just the tiniest little twinkle. You would have missed it if you hadn't happened to just be zoning out in that direction.
I will be walking as I normally do, right up until I reach it, like as close as possible.
The closer you get, you see Korea's eyes like get wider and wider, and almost like clenching up with tension.
And then right before I reach it, I will stop and just make a different route around it.
You kind of hear this.
I'm not so easy to trick. If you want to get me, you have to try harder.
Roll me another perception check.
Oh!
20. Okay. So, the direction that you turn, you, like, as you're saying you have to try harder, you're lifting your foot and you're about to set it down on another branch, and you catch it right before you set your foot down. It's a snare trap.
Almost got me again.
Oh! I was so proud of that.
was quite good, honestly. Anyone else, you would have gotten them.
The spy is going.
And I hop over the branch.
She's like grumbling as she follows you. After a moment, she points out a couple more. She sounds a little defeated. Roll me another survival and another perception check. So, you do follow the same game trail, and it is a little bit winding, but you know you're heading in the right direction based on the position of the sun. As you step, there's like a crossover from one game trail to the next. It's like a higher bush. You catch that some of the high bushes between the game trails are not blowing in the breeze the way they should.
Korea,
What?
do you find something strange about those bushes over there?
I don't know what you're talking about. This looks fine to me.
Besides the jokes, and the traps. Are you sure? Because I have a feeling.
Korea takes a closer look. Oh! This isn't one of mine. But this is one.
Yes. Who do you suppose it could be?
Oh, that could be anyone.
That's a good point. I just assumed you had a couple of prankster friends you might know.
Oh, sure.
Traps and all. Does any of them specialize in bush traps or something?
Oh, let me think. Well, he really likes these, but then he would be farther in. It takes a minute.
Yeah.
This little fairy dragon is like... They're not stupid, so the amount of time
Yeah,
it's
I know.
taking for this... It's like, oh dear.
You know, I think as long as we keep a distance, we'll be fine. Don't you think so?
Yeah.
But if not, stay vigilant.
Oh, always.
Always, of course. And I shall twice the normal amount that I would for one of her traps. I shall go around.
Okay. So, roll me another perception check.
Oh no, I just had to fail this one, huh?
6. Hold on. Right before you are about to step in something, Coria says, "Stop!"
I freeze.
She like gestures down, and you are about to step on what looked like a grass patch, but it's oil.
Oil. For tripping or for something more dastardly?
It looks like it's very slippery, and Coria lands on your shoulder and says, "Boggles.
Boggles?
Boggles."
Do I know what a boggles is?
Yeah, roll me an Arcana check.
I don't think I do.
An 11?
Yep.
Nope.
Is your boggles person
No,
friendly?
they're boggles. They're grumpy little... They're little purple things. They like to try and steal my berries.
Not good people.
No, they're gross.
Alright. We must be extra vigilant because it appears they might be trying to steal more from us, don't you think?
Yeah. As you're having this conversation, standing over the oil,
Yeah.
a strange sensation comes over you, and then you hear this, and something whacks you on the back. and you
Oh.
take 2 points of bludgeoning damage.
Oh, frick. Okay. Ouch.
I'd like to roll initiative.
Alright. 15.
Okay. Okay, so you go first.
I have not prepared very many spells.
That's correct. You
Spells.
kind of turn around to see what the hell that was, and this tiny little black gremlin-looking creature with yellow eyes and sharp fangs and pointed ears is looking up at you, and it looks like it's preparing something. It's moving its hands in a strange pattern and going, yeah.
I will immediately, do create bonfire right on top of it.
Okay, I'll roll a save here.
I need to do a DC. Not DC, it's not DC, it's just. Oh yeah, it is Dex 13.
It fails. It fails
Woo!
real bad.
Alright.
What's the damage?
1d8.
Okay, roll it.
Fire damage? Hold on.
Roll that shit.
Yeah, fire damage. First spell of the game, okay. Whoa. 5 damage.
5 damage. Okay. So, this boggle, you kind of reach down almost instinctually, just this burst of conflagration just on the boggle's face, and it kind of leaps backward, now burning and in pain. Do you want to do anything else?
Am I able to... That's a cantrip, and I can only do one cantrip per round, correct?
Cantrips are actions usually, so yeah. You do have a bonus action
Yeah.
if you can do anything with a bonus action.
What can I do? Hold on. Bonus. Where's the actions? Bonus action. I have a knife. I have a dagger.
You do.
But it's jump back, correct?
Not really. It was just flavor.
Okay.
It's there in front of you, and you cast a
I'm gonna whap that thing on the head with my dagger.
you can do that without proficiency.
I am proficient.
No, but you are not proficient with two-weapon fighting, and your action,
Oh,
you
yeah.
don't really have a bonus action attack.
So, what would that be if I'm not proficient in two?
If you want,
fighting?
you could use your bonus action to like kick the boggle.
I'm gonna kick the boggle. I'm gonna get out
Okay,
of the area.
so roll me a d20 plus your strength modifier.
No, that's worse. I'm a -1 on strength,
Yeah.
and I got a 1.
Okay.
It's a 0.
You ignite this boggle, and as it's, you step forward and try to sucker go, just kick it out of the woods, and the oil is slippery, and you totally miss, almost falling onto your ass. The fairy in your ears just,
Help!
that was great. Oh, you want me to help? Okay,
Yes,
so
please.
the way familiars work is they go right before your turn. So this upcoming turn, the fairy dragon will be able to do something. But it is the boggle's turn.
Okay.
So, the boggle is going to stand up. Well, it's already standing, but you get what I mean. It will... It kind of does this weird blinking maneuver where it suddenly appears 10 feet off the ground in front of you, and as it falls, it's going to strike you again. Or it's going to try to.
Yeah.
That... you take... This definitely hits. It was an 18 to hit, but you take 2 points of bludgeoning damage.
Oh, no.
Just
Alright.
as you get this bash into your shoulder blades. And that is the end of the boggle's turn as it lands at your feet again.
Okay. How do I use my familiar?
Okay, so your familiar... The rule with familiars is familiars cannot take the attack action. But they can do all sorts of other things. They can use... You can, like, use a familiar to transfer a touch spell. You can ask your familiar to do the help action, which is where, like, to help on an attack or a save, you can make your familiar go and just be fucking annoying in something's face, and then you have advantage on the attack, things like that. So, like, if you have, like, a spell that's an attack roll, you could use your familiar to get advantage on that. Other things familiars can do, you can look through your familiar's eyes and use your familiar's senses. So, like, if your familiar has blind sight or dark vision, you can have that by looking through your familiar's eyes. Things like that. Fairy dragons do have dark vision.
I think I'm going to... Is this a touch spell, Ice Knife?
Ice Knife is a ranged attack.
Yeah, and I would just be throwing it anyway, so it's fine. I'm gonna have them distract the... bobbin? I don't remember what it's called, the purple thing.
It is a boggle, yeah.
Boggle, thank you.
Okay.
I'm gonna have her try her best to annoy that thing.
Okay, so
get off the way.
before you do that, I need to remind you that Ice Knife, when you hit something, the shard, if you hit or miss, the shard explodes, and then each target within 5 feet must succeed on a dexterity save, or take 2d6 cold
Thank you
damage.
for that.
So, it is a familiar, which means that if your fairy dragon dies, it does not actually die, it just disappears, and then you have to cast Find Familiar again to bring it back.
Yeah, but I don't...
You don't want to do that, yeah.
I don't want to do that. Okay, how do I know which is... Because I have Chill Touch, but it's apparently not a touch spell.
Chill Touch is a ranged spell, yeah.
Yeah, that's real confusing.
Spells that are touch spells. Let's look at what you got. You have Frostbite, that's ranged. Silent Image, Hideous Laughter. Hideous Laughter is ranged. But it's not really, it does damage. Yeah. So,
I don't have touch spells.
you do have a lot of touch spells. Yeah, next time you get the chance, you should probably prepare some other stuff. But, for now, you have Chill Touch, and Frostbite, and Ice Knife. And Create Bonfire, but you already did that. Speaking of which, are you still concentrating on that bonfire?
Yes.
Okay. On the boggles, next turn is going to take another 1d8 damage.
I know. I'm going to give this guy a little bit of both fire and ice, but first I will have Korea distract him. Distract the boggle.
Okay.
As best you can.
You see the tiny, the brilliantly colored iridescent blue fairy dragon flies down into this boggle's face and starts just buffeting it with its wings, and the boggle's like yak, 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 like swinging its arms up at the dragon and unable to hit it.
Okay, on my turn, I'm going to do Chill Touch.
Okay, you cast Chill Touch on the boggle. I believe that is a...
+5.
Alright, roll that attack with advantage.
Advantage, alright.
A 21 definitely hits the boggle. Roll damage.
1d8. Alright.
Not too shabby, okay. And now it's the boggle's turn. I'd like you to roll me another 1d8 for that fire damage.
Aw.
So, you reach down, and the necrotic hand just grips the boggle, And the boggle, as it's dealing with this fairy dragon's like, just it's flinching and writhing, and on its turn, it's burning in the bonfire. It rolls away from it, extinguishing the flames on itself, and then it's going to try and rift again. Oh, it can't. It's got to recharge. Okay. Never mind. It's going to attack you again. First, another oily puddle appears underneath your feet. I need a dexterity saving throw.
Alright. 14.
A 14. You easily make that save. It's slick, but it's not any slicker than like a mildly icy sidewalk. So you manage to stand just fine. It's going to reach up and try to attack you. And it misses. Okay, so the boggle is ineffective this turn. Your fairy dragon's like, is this what you wanted? Is just flapping around in its face.
I'm gonna have Gloria like fly backwards, like closer to me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to, on my turn, throw Icy Knife.
Okay, roll it. Or is that...
Please, it's a roll.
Yeah, you hit.
All right.
Absolutely, you hit. Roll that damage.
Alright, D10. Oh, it's a 10.
Okay. Roll that 2d6 for the explosion.
2d6. 2d6, actually?
It is 2d6.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's a good spell. Okay. So, this boggle, it's like... as the fairy dragon flies away from the boggle, and it kind of looks up at you like... and then just an ice knife just right in the face. And it's like... as this ice explodes into a bunch of shatters, and the boggle is ripped to weird dark gray shreds that are spread out onto the grass around you. And the fairy's just... That was gross! Nice!
Good job.
You are out of combat.
I'm going to carefully walk out of the oil puddles and get back to campus before more of these things come after me.
Okay, roll a survival check. Okay. You continue along, and you're maybe 3/4 of the way back. You've moved out of the beautiful Dryads territory, and you're back to the normal forest outside of the Merigard Academy. Roll me another persuasion check. Or not persuasion, perception check.
Perception. Oof.
A 5. Okay. So, you proceed down the game trail. And it's maybe another 15 minutes, and then you feel your foot gets tangled on something, and you kind of yank it free, and then before you know it, you feel your stomach getting pulled up, and you are flipped upside down, and just kind of hanging from a tree, and the fairy dragon looks at you and just goes...
Yes, very funny. Can you help me?
It's like spinning in the air in front of you. It's not actually laughing out loud. You kind of hear, from your ears, you kind of hear this... But in your head, it is laughing uproariously. It takes a couple minutes for the fairy dragon to regain its composure. It keeps getting distracted because there is a berry bush nearby, and it keeps grabbing some berries. But eventually, she comes back and she says, "Oh, okay." And she, kind of yanks the knot with her teeth, and then you are set free. Roll me an acrobatics save check.
Oh, no. That's another thing I'm really bad at. -1.
You land flat on your back in the middle of the forest as the tree just returns to its fully upright position. You take 1 point of bludgeoning damage.
Okay. Wind knocked out of the air there.
Yeah. And the fairy kind of lands on your chest looking down at you and just... and Korea kind of licks your face to get some of the dirt off and says, sorry!
I'll get used to it. Let's go get some pie.
Yeah!
I'm really feeling that right now.
I need one final survival check from you.
Final for a survival check. Nice. Oh no!
You... Okay, I lied about it being final.
Yeah, with that roll.
I need another perception check. 17. You stray from the game trail. You think that you're better off getting away from the game trail to not have to deal with any more of Coria's traps. And then, as you're crossing over a few bushes and then you lean on a tree, you realize that you're about to step on another trap.
This one's pretty far out.
Hey, I've had a lot of free time. Besides, some people drop, like, candy and stuff when they get pulled up.
Do they?
Yeah, along with, like, gold, but I don't give a shit about that. Sometimes I have to help it fall out, but that's okay.
I understand you now. I attempt to make another... attempt to make my way back out of the forest properly.
Roll
this
another
time.
survival check.
Alright,
21.
that's good.
Okay. As you push out of the forest after another 20 minutes of walking, you see the sun is still in the sky, but it is closer to the other horizon. It seems like you've been in the forest for longer than you thought you were. It's late evening.
Well, I need to make my promise. That I head to the food court real quick, see if they got some apple pie.
Do they have any apple pie? Let's see. Hold on. Let's find out. They do. They do have apple pie. It's freshly baked. It smells sweet, and you can tell just by looking at it. The crust is nice and crispy and flaky, and you like don't even have the chance to stop her. Korea lands next to one of them and just starts just devouring the first apple pie.
I'll pay the staff quantity currently for that pie.
You look up, and a suit of armor sets the next. It's like a entire tray of just desserts, and it's just. It sets another apple pie down on the counter, and then it kind of puts its hand over the coin that you set on the counter and just drags it back.
I'm gonna just let her eat for a little bit. Just catch my breath. You know?
Yeah. Your hair is like full of twigs and brush and soil from when you got flipped upside down and dropped, and you're a little sore in the back from where that boggle hit you. But other than that, you're feeling pretty good.
Yes, of course. I have a new friend who enjoys pie.
You kind of glance over
and pranks.
As you're thinking about her, she glances up at you, and her face is covered in apple pie filling. Just thick golden syrup is all over her face.
enjoying yourself?
Yeah!
Good. We may need to hurry up here because I have someone we need to meet.
Well, bring it with us.
Good point. I will take the tray of pie
She is...
in my hands like a waitress.
She's like resting on your arm and just eating the pie as you're walking.
Please try not to get any of it on me.
She doesn't say anything else. She just laughs.
I will head over... Oh, frick, this is bad idea bringing food to a library.
As you walk out with the fairy dragon on your shoulder eating this pie, Persh kind of glances up from his paper and says, looks like you were a little successful.
A little bit, yeah.
I can't say I've ever seen one of them before.
Until today, I haven't either.
I guess the fates will be kind.
May they be to you in the future.
Who knows? I don't need a dragon pet.
They might keep you company.
When he says the word pet, Korea looks up from the pie and hisses violently at him.
That's a good point. She is not a pet, she is my partner.
She just returns to eating the pie, and Persh says,
Point taken.
And I will head up to class.
okay. It's a long climb, though Korea doesn't mind because you're doing all the work. You get to the classroom door, and you're a little winded, especially after the harrowing day you've had. But you step into the classroom, and again, it is filled with the voice sound of Tabernac speaking with somebody else.
This long journey up the stairs, do you think Korea would have been done with the pie by now?
I would say she's about to finish.
Alright, I will stand there a moment, let her finish, and hopefully there's some sort of, rubbish bin.
Yeah, there's plenty of garbage. There's plenty of
Okay.
there's plenty of places that you can dispose of papers and parchments that are trash and vellum.
I will get rid of the now empty pie container,
Okay.
and we will go up and see my professor.
Well, as soon as you step in, the gnomish wizard classmate who was here, you get the impression he's still here because he did not pass his trial. And he looks up and he sees this fairy dragon on your shoulder and he says,
What's that? What?
I know, I am surprised too.
How did...
he kind of just, he looks a little defeated and he looks back to his book and he starts like writing a little bit more furiously.
Oh, don't be that way. If you just stick to it, I know you can do it.
He does not look up at you.
Aw. I'm gonna go see my professor.
Okay. Tabernac, who is in the middle of having a conversation, his eyes are instantly drawn to the gleaming, shining scales of indigo blue on the back of this fairy dragon. And he says,
Ah! I did wonder who would be the first.
First?
I've never had a student come back with a fairy dragon before. I'm impressed. I should have
Thank
guessed,
you.
honestly. What's your name, little one?
and the fairy dragon, who is now resting on your shoulder because you're warm and they are cold-blooded, kind of tilts her head, and Tabernac says,
Korea, I've heard complaints about you.
You hear Korea laughing in your head, and her head, when she laughs in your head, her head like kind of bobbles up and down a little bit on her long neck, and Tabernac turns to you and says,
I can honestly say, earning the trust of a fairy dragon is definitely proving of your worth.
Thank you.
Be sure to study the effects a fairy dragon has, because
I shall.
she is your friend now, and will value your abilities just as you should value hers.
Of course.
Tomorrow you begin your assignment. You receive your team.
I look forward to it.
You've completed my training. Though I do expect you to return.
Of course. I will bring many stories for you to tell.
You'd better. So, on that note, you've passed your trial.